All right, welcome. Today we're going to talk about something you might not expect, a skill that a lot of engineers tend to push to the side. But here's the thing, it could be the single most important factor for your success. Yeah, we're talking about writing. And let's just jump right in with a pretty serious warning. That quote you're seeing, it's not an exaggeration. For a lot of engineers, bad writing isn't just some small annoyance. It's a full-on career roadblock. It's a tough reality that can hold back even the most brilliant technical people. Look, chances are, if you're an engineer, you got into it because you love logic, you love numbers, you love building things that work. Words and sentences, probably not so much, right? And hey, that makes total sense. And that gets us to the heart of the problem. Your most groundbreaking, world-changing idea is basically trapped if it's just stuck in your own head. If you can't explain the what, the how, and most importantly, the why to other people, then that brilliant idea, well, it just fizzles out. So you might be thinking, okay, but how much does this really matter? Well, let's look at the hard data, because the amount of time engineers spend putting words on a page is probably going to surprise you. Would you believe that a ton of engineers spend more than 40% of their time at work just writing? And get this, as you move up the ladder and get promoted, that number actually goes up. The higher you go, the more your career depends on how well you write. Let's put a price tag on that, shall we? If an engineer starts out making $60,000 a year, that 40% of their time means the company is paying them $24,000 just to write. Your skill with words has a very, very real dollar value. And we're not just talking about firing off a couple of emails. I mean, look at this. Writing is woven into every single part of an engineer's job. We're talking everything from deep dive research studies and technical specs to user manuals and the memos that keep projects moving. Your words are literally everywhere. And the sheer amount of this stuff can be just mind-blowing. Just think about this famous example. For the B-1B bomber, they figured out that all the paperwork, the proposals, the reports, the manuals weighed almost as much as the actual airplane. We're talking a literal ton of writing. So here's the big idea. What if you could approach writing just like any other engineering system? You know, something you can analyze, something you can optimize, and something you can actually control. Let's frame this in a way that'll feel familiar. As a writer, you're the encoder. Your reader, they're the decoder. And your document is the channel that sends your message, your signal, from you to them. But as you can see here, there are a lot of places where things can go wrong. And in our communication system, that interference is called noise. In writing, noise is anything that makes your reader pause, get confused, or just misunderstand what you're trying to say. It's the static that messes up your signal, and it is the absolute enemy of clear communication. So your goal as an engineer who writes is actually pretty simple. Maximize your signal-to-noise ratio. You want the clearest possible message with the least amount of static. So let's look at how to do that. Okay, here's a classic source of noise: redundancy. The original sentence, there was not a sufficient enough number of samples. I mean, sufficient and enough are the same thing, right? You don't need both. Cut out the extra word and boom, the message is instantly clearer, more direct. It's a simple tweak that makes a big difference. And here's another one, just plain old unnecessary complexity. Think of your writing as the shortest path from point A to point B. But way too often we build these long, winding roads with complicated words and passive phrasing. Look at that revised sentence. It gets you there so much faster. But you know the trickiest noise to get rid of doesn't come from just a few extra words. As this quote shows so perfectly, the absolute worst kind of noise comes from fuzzy, disorganized thinking. If your thoughts are a jumble, your writing will be a jumble. It's that simple. And that's where your engineering discipline, planning, outlining, becomes your secret weapon. Okay, so how do you know if you've actually done it? How can you tell if you've filtered out the noise and you're really in control of your communication system? The ultimate test is the result. It's as simple as that. When your proposal gets approved without a million questions, when the instructions you wrote are followed perfectly the first time, or hey, when you get that promotion you applied for, that's when you know. That's when your signal was received loud and clear. At the end of the day, the same logical, precise, and systematic mind that makes you a great engineer is exactly what you need to become a great writer. You already know how to design, build, and control incredibly complex systems. So the only question left is, will you apply those same skills to your words and make sure that noise isn't costing you your next big idea?